Hello, everyone. I'm Homer Owens, and it's my pleasure to be talking with the city manager of the city of Pikeville, Donovan Blackbird, a good friend, by the way, also.
Absolutely, Homer. Glad to be here. We appreciate you having us up today.
Okay, this subject is something that's not foreign to you, I'm sure, but it's not foreign to me. We just went through the last couple of weeks a town hall forum, and where most of this was explained, but this is another step forward on the Marion Branch project.
This is all somewhat related. Recently, the city has annexed, or let me restate that, Homer. What the city has done is done an intent to annex certain property on Island Creek. Coming off the Marion's Branch property, or the area that we annexed back in 2005, and most recently done a major project up on Island Creek. Then the next step is for the city is looking at that territory that is kind of in between Cedar Creek, the city of Pikeville currently, and Marion's Branch to annex that area. And then there's probably about probably 200 to 300 residents within the area. So there's been a tremendous outpouring of questions and asking what the city's intent is. So the intent today is to come up here and try to explain some of that.
Good. Let me ask you a question about it, as a matter of fact. Is there any chance that the city has got the cart in front of the horse, because you've already made a commitment, not only publicly but financially, to that site?
Well, the answer is no. And what I mean by that is the actual Marion's Branch site, which will be developed, since there's no housing there, and since we already annexed it in '05, what the city wanted to do, in stepping back just a second, is whenever we went to look at the development of the actual Marion's Branch property, one of the things obviously that you have to do in order to develop is you have to provide infrastructure, sewer, water, utilities, power, et cetera, et cetera. So the first step was utilities or sewer, because that's a very costly part of an expansion program. So the city embarked upon about a 2-year mission and created a $5 million sewer project. Now, what the first intent was from the mayor was we had looked at bringing the sewer off on US 23 side of Marion's Branch, and if you're following South Mail Trail, it runs parallel to South Mail Trail, US 23. So it would have been easier and far less costly to come down off of 23 and to run it through 23 back into our existing system. But instead, the commission, with the mayor's leadership, also said, look, there's a lot of homes in Island Creek. That is our service area. Instead of going up through 23 side, let's go through Island Creek. And what we can do in that process is pick up another 300-400 homes that desperately need services, that desperately need sewer. The tributary that empties out of the Island Creek with the bridges there is actually where the city's intake is, and it's one of the worst tributaries from the sense of fecal and different contaminants being in the water there. So, and that's mainly due to straight piping. So there's a lot of failing systems, a lot of folks in the area that needed utilities. So quite honestly, instead of going through 23, we decided to go through Marion's Branch, which elevated the cost of it. But we went after grants and a lot of different things in order to make this project affordable to the city.
Let's size this situation. About 1,000 acres, is that correct?
Well, that's the Marion's Branch, but now the area that we've already annexed that area. Where we're talking about is the actual area on Island Creek below Marion's Branch. So again,
is this for access to the primary area?
Well, no, it's not. What the purpose of this is, and that's why we're here to talk today, is to address some of the concerns of the residents that are on Island Creek. Again, the intent wasn't, or backing up, the need wasn't to have to annex Island Creek. The issue is that the city commission is wanting, since that Marion's Branch is a major part of our future development, is to also offer that same quality of life of those that live actually on Island Creek and the right fork of Island Creek. So what the city does is we did a first reading back about 3 weeks ago on an intent ordinance, and we have been flooded with calls by the 400 resident or the homes that are in the area asking, why are you annexing us? What are the advantages of being annexed? And because there's a petition process that's getting ready to take place. So the intent is to come up and explain to those residents and invite them. We've actually sent a letter out that went out today to all the residents that asked them to tune in to these shows so that we can help answer some of those questions. So the intent with the first part of this is kind of explain what an intent annexation is, because people don't understand the difference, and it's understandably why, because it's very complex, and what an intent annexation is versus an actual annexation.
What is the time frame on an intent annexation?
Very good question. What happens is in an intent, and it's just that, whenever the city looks at a piece of property and says, is there municipal value, is there an opportunity for growth, is there a quality of life issue, then what they're required to do under the law is they first do a first reading of an intent ordinance. Once an intent ordinance happens, and that has happened, then what we are required to do is to send out a letter with the ordinance to the property owners. Now, not the property dwellers, and a lot of people get those confused. Is well, I live on the property and I didn't get a notice. Well, what the law says is if you're a renter there, you won't get a notice. But the property owner there, whatever the address is listed at the PVA's office as of January 1st of that year, are the ones that will actually get the intent notice. So when you put the notice out, then you're required to wait 14 days after that notice before you do your second reading. And the obvious reason for that is to, once you've notified the property owners, it says we're going to have a second reading. So if you want to attend the commission meeting and give input, you're more than welcome to do so.
The first round of letters went out yesterday, you said, or today?
No, the first round, that's a good point. The intent ordinance went out about 2 weeks ago.
So we're looking at maybe the middle of June before the
23rd of June.
Okay.
No, May. I'm sorry. We're in May, right?
May.
It's been a long day already. And it's early in the morning. Now the first reading was done last month. So we're already past our 14-day period. Now we sent out letters and just to qualify what statement I made is we sent out letters not for the annexation, but to tell people to tune into the show so they can learn about the annexation. So again, we've met the 14-day period already. Our next commission meeting is, which would include the second reading, is May the 23rd. So it's this coming, or a week from this coming Monday. Which we're doing this by recording, so this may have came out a little bit past that. But again, May 23rd at 6 o'clock is the next commission meeting as of to when the second reading will take place. Now, that is an intent ordinance, Homer. It's not an annexation, and that's where some folks are confused, is that when you do an intent, it's just that. You're telling the public, we intend on annexing this territory. And then a process starts. So after the meeting on the 23rd, what will then take place is a 60-day clock starts. And in that 60-day time frame, there's two different classifications. There's people that live there, and there's people that own property there. Either classification, and you may fit in both classifications. You may live there and own your property. So either classification is allowed to sign a petition asking for the item to be placed on the ballot at the next general election in November. So if 50% of either classification signs a petition of the total area that's to be annexed, meets that criteria, then the item would be placed on the ballot. If less than 50% of that either classification fails to sign a petition, then what would happen is then the city commission could then annex the property. So after the 60-day period is up, which will start on the 23rd, after they do the second reading, then we'll do a publication of the ordinance, and then they'll have 60 days for the folks in the area. If they choose to sign a petition, they can. Now, the question comes down is why would I sign a petition?
Why would they sign a petition? Am I doing good here?
Homer, you done great. I'll let you right into that
one.
All right. There's a lot of reasons why you would or you wouldn't. And, folks, and Homer, this is really why we're up here to talk, is one is to not only talk about the annexation and the process, because we want to make sure that people have a right to know. We want to make sure that they understand the process. We also want to make sure that they understand on the 23rd their property isn't automatically annexed, that it's going to take another 60 days to get through a process, and then if 50% of the people sign a petition, then we'll either take it through November. But if less than 50% sign, the commission would have the opportunity to actually do another ordinance, would actually be the annexation ordinance.
I'm not hearing the concept of eminent domain here.
Well, it's not. The intent isn't to go in and under eminent domain to do condemnations and all the things. That's what a lot of people have some concerns about, and that's definitely not the issue. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit from the standpoint of the discussion that I had between the city commission and myself. They look at things one way, as they should, and their job is to protect the public and offer services and to represent those that they're elected to represent. Myself as a city manager, I'm to do the same thing through their direction, but I also have a financial responsibility to the city. So when I look at areas, when we're looking at annexing, I have to ask, what is the cost of services? What burden may or may not it place on the city? So when you look at this area, it will cost the city money, and the law, but there's an opportunity for the city to increase population, and in doing so, gives us a much larger voice in Washington and Frankfort.
By 200 to 300 people, I think you mentioned.
200 to 300 households. So you're probably talking about actually probably 1,000 people, because more people live in the household than one. But the issue with the annexation and the process is that people come out of the box and they say, well, the first thing is I don't want to be annexed because of the high property tax, or not just property tax, but taxes. Taxes are too high. The city just wants my taxes, and so therefore I'm opposed to the annexation. And that is one of the biggest misknown or false statements that can be made. The issue, it comes down to quality of life and offering the services to the community. And I've got some papers here laid before me that I'll try to explain a little bit more in detail what the benefits are from the standpoint of why the commission and the mayor is interested in doing this under quality of life.
All right, let's hear that.
Well, let's see. The first issue is that let's talk about property taxes or taxes. What are my taxes? And what folks may or may not be aware of is that, first of all, when the city of Pikeville annexes a certain territory, it's only those territories are being annexed into the city corporate boundaries, not the city school district boundaries. Okay, it's two different processes, because there is a difference in the tax base between the two. The Pikeville Independent School System is a great system. A lot of folks want to be in it. Some folks understand that there's additional tax consequences to that and may not want to. So I just want to again set the record straight to get folks to understand.
I'll clarify that. Let's see where you're going now.
Well, first of all, the city's corporate boundaries. It takes, when you annex a territory, as I just explained it, that's the process that you have to follow. The school system follows a totally different process. Whenever we annex a certain area, it doesn't automatically put them into the city school district. Now, with that said, if the city school district wanted to actually include additional territory outside of the city boundaries, they could actually do that. So they could go actually into Island Creek without the city boundaries being expanded. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not about the taxes from the school system, because they don't pay they quite honestly don't pay city school tax. They'll still be in the city or the county school system. So therefore, the only tax consequences that somebody being annexed into the city corporate boundaries is 15 cents per $100 assessed. What that means is if you have a piece of property that's worth $100,000, it's the easiest way by example to explain it, then you would pay the city $150 in taxes, and that is all. The city school district, if they were looking at expanding territory, they would have to do is to petition the Pike County school system to ask them to forego that territory. So people have been asked, well, once you annex this, then the city school system could come in and be part of our area, and the answer to that is absolutely no. The city school system is a totally different process. They have to go through the county. The city school system would first have to agree to take them, and then the county school board would have to agree to release them. But that's a total separate process than city annexation. Has nothing to do with us. Now, back to the tax consequences. Again, if you look at the Island Creek area, we just recently ran a $5 million sewer project through that area. Again, picking up over 400 or close to 400 homes that have signed up for that services. That project was a little over $5 million. So that area is actually in the city of Pikeville's service area. And what that means is that under what is known in Frankfort as a 201 service area, the city of Pikeville has responsibilities within our service area to provide utilities to those customers, water and sewer. So we just spent, again, $5 million. The system's being placed in now. And it will be up and running before the end of the year. So there's also a disparity or a difference in city utilities and out-of-city utilities. So the question, again, from a property owner is what's this going to cost me? And, of course, everybody believes that it's taxes, and that's not the case. Again, 15 cents per $100 assessed. So if you have a $100,000 home, it's $150. Most of the property homeowner in that area is valued way below $100,000. And that's just a PVA process. So, the first thing that we tell people when they're looking at being annexed is to call the PVA's office if you don't have your tax receipt and find out what the evaluation of your property is. And then again, whatever that evaluation is, it's 15 cents per $100 assessed. So for every $100, you add 15 cents to it. So
let me ask you something here. You're going and giving us a lot of information, some of which I'm digesting, some of which I'm not. Make a relationship between the proposed annexation property size and the Marion's Branch situation, which is roughly 1,000 acres, Marion's Branch. The annexation, what are we talking about there in terms of acreage?
The acreage is about 2,000 in Island Creek. 2,000. There's three actual annexations. One annexation's about 1,100 acres. Another one's about 600 acres. And another one's about 300 acres. So it's about twice the area mass as Marion's Branch would be.
Can you tie together the proposed annexation and the Marion's Branch? Why is that they're related in some form?
The only relationship is the utilities. It has, other than that, people on Island Creek, they don't really care about the Marion's Branch while the city's annexed or if they're developing it. What they care about is what their taxes are going to cost them, and they care about what the services are going to be provided to them for the annexation. So the intent is to, again, explain to the public, or not to the public as much as the residents on Island Creek, as of to why that's a benefit to them. Because quite honestly, before they come to the city commission meeting on the 23rd of this month, we want them educated. We want them to know what the issues are. And of course, the biggest issue is what's in it for me, Homer, and so I want there. It is a very complex issue. I understand that, and it's hard to understand.
Has the city of Pikeville gone through this process before?
Numerous times. Matter of fact, we just annexed Lycans Creek, which is a great point. It was actually on one of my notes that I had made. And I'll make an example of Lycans Creek. Lycans Creek, which is located in behind the Walmart area. There was about 100 residents there. So I may be off by 10 or 20 here and there. But, this was an area that started this process. We are providing sewer to that area right now. And what the intent was to that area was to go in and to offer services, to offer better quality of life. Now, initially, the Lycans Creek residents there, and actually I've been with the city for 7 years now, and in 7 years it's the first area that we've actually annexed that had residents living in the area. We've annexed a lot of land mass for additional growth, but we've not annexed residential areas. So this was
similar to the Buckley's Creek annexation.
Buckley's Creek it was, but again, Buckley's Creek had no residential. The area that we annexed had no residents in it. Now that's being disputed because there was a home as part of the territory that we annexed, but it wasn't within the house itself wasn't within the boundaries, only the front part of the property. So Lycans Creek is actually the only territory that we've actually had. And what happened there at Lycans Creek is that the folks originally had these same questions that the people on Island Creek are having. And so they started signing the petition. And then as we started doing these radio shows and as we started sending them information, they went from being against to being for. And what actually happened is there was actually a couple of territories adjacent to Lycans Creek that once they realized what services was being offered to those residents, they actually came to the city who were opposed before and said, why didn't you annex our territory also? Would you please consider annexing our territory because of the services? And we did.
That's a little unusual, though, isn't it, that they would solicit you to annex?
Well, it was, but that comes back to the value. The value is that once they realize what the actual annexation, what the process is, and what they're getting out of this.
There's a built-in resistance to the entire idea of annexation. Is that fair?
That is very fair, Homer, and it's all because of miscommunication. I won't say miscommunication as much as misinformation. It goes back to the tax base. People, by nature, are opposed to taxes, and certainly understandable why. I would argue that our local taxes is the best tax that we could pay simply because those taxes actually come back into our own community and they help us. Unlike federal taxes or state taxes where they go to Frankfurt or Washington and then they're dispersed from there. Our legislators do a great job bringing some of those taxes back to us, but it's still in Frankfurt. A local tax base stays within your jurisdiction and provides services like fire protection and police protection and paves the roads that you actually drive on, and et cetera, et cetera. And this is what's happened in this particular case is that if you talk about now we've talked about what the cost is, Homer. Let's talk about what the savings and what the quality of life improvement is, because that's where people really get excited, and where I have been able to, Homer, over the last week I talked about 25 residents on Island Creek that's called my office, and by the time I got off the phone with them, I would say all 25 were in favor or at least not resisting of the annexation. They wanted to hear more.
Do you sense a group of opposition residents to this idea?
I don't think it's any particular group, Homer. I think it's a broad base. I think, again, because of the stigma of annexation, when you read about annexation, to your point, you read about things, lawsuits going on at Buckley's Creek. You read about resistance between one city and another. Instead, you don't really get to hear of what all the benefits to it, and how does it impact me, and what does it do for me as a resident. And the first thing that comes up is well, it's going to cost me $150. And I said that's on $100,000, evaluation. Again, if you have half that evaluation, then you have half that tax consequence. But here's where it goes to the other side. Here's where it's a benefit, and this is what people want to know: is how does it benefit me? Well, the big benefit is I just told you a moment ago, you're in the city's service area, and that's utilities. Every city across the state of Kentucky who offers utilities has two different utility ratings. They have an in-city rate and an out-of-city rate, and that's by design. The city of Pikeville's no difference. And the question is well, why? Why do you have a county rate and why do you have an in-city rate? Why are your citizens in Pikeville, why do they have to pay less versus the citizens that are in the county? Well, first of all, our rates are very comparable to what the county's mountain water rates are. Our water rate is, as a matter of fact, equal to what their rate is. So when you look at the question as of to why, how I try to explain that is let's say hypothetically that you are putting a 2-mile sewer line in the ground. You've got 1 mile that leads into the city and 1 mile that leads into the county. Well, the difference is that the county citizens, there's a 6-to-1 ratio. So to pay for that sewer line, that 1 mile line in the city costs the same amount as a 1 mile line out of the city. In the city, you have a 6-to-1 ratio. You've got, for every 6 customers in the city, you've got 1 customer out of the city, but the cost difference is the difference. So that's a disparity in why you've got an in-city rate and an out-of-city rate. The in-city residents also pay property tax, and under our ordinance, we do take money out of the general fund so that we can keep our utility rates a little bit lower to offer that as a service. So the difference in the rates is an average user on the in-city on sewer and water, and we'll talk about trash also, is that, and this is where the rubber meets the road, is again, you're paying $150 assessed in additional value on $100,000. That's as an example only. But the average user in Kentucky is about 5,000 gallons of water per household. Now our average user is right in line with that. It's about 4,900. So if you take a 5,000 gallon user in the city versus out of the city, you would save. Well, let me tell you what the rates are first. Per month, it's for city in rate, it's $49.80 for 5,000 gallons of usage of sewer and water. Outside, it's $92.45. So there's a total difference of $42.65 per month. So your total savings for 5,000 gallons equates out to $512 a year. So again, being in the city, there's a benefit. You're paying $150, and that's your only tax addition is $150, but you're saving $512 in utilities. And then on your trash service also.
The benefit coming from the 6-to-1 difference.
That's the difference. That's the difference is because now you're joining that group that's got the 600 or the 6 ratio versus the 1 ratio. So so you're paying what property tax you're paying. Those are going to keep some of those utility costs lower. But also by being in the city, we're able to disperse those costs, and you actually save on your utility rate.
Utilities is only one aspect of it. There's fire and
there's fire
trash.
Is another good one, and trash. Let me talk briefly about those. Your trash service, if you currently those residents are in the county. The county's trash service is $14 per household. Ours is $10. So it's a $48 a year savings. I think I got that wrong. I think 12 versus 10. No, I was right. 14. My math.
48 stands up.
So it's a $48 per year savings for your trash service. The difference is that in the county, and they've got a very large area, and they work very hard, and we work very well with their trash service, but we have a much refined area. So your residential rate there is $10, but the difference is that we pick it up twice a week versus the county only picks it up once a week. So now you've got another benefit. So your total benefit when you're looking at again trash and utilities based on 5,000 gallons is about $560 a year. So you're only paying 500 or $150 in taxes on 100,000, but you're saving almost $600 in utility cost, and you're getting better service because it's more frequent, more frequent because of the 2 times a week pickup.
I'm surprised they're not beating down your door wanting to get these bargains.
Well, and that's what's happened, Homer, is actually after you sit here and explain this, they say, we didn't understand that. We weren't educated. Nobody took the time to explain it. So that's what we're trying to do now. The other part of that is, as you mentioned, fire protection. The difference in the city versus the county, again, you got a lot of great fire departments in the county, but they're volunteer services. The city is a full 24/7 fire department, and actually we have a station, ironically, located on Island Creek, right at the UMG office there. So the folks on Island Creek right now, their ISO rating, which your ISO rating is, that determines your insurance cost for homeowners for fire insurance. Island Creek ranges between a 6 and a 9 on their ISO rating. In the city of Pikeville, it's a 4. So that means on your homeowner's insurance, and again, these aren't numbers that we're just making up. We ask people to call the PBA's office, get your evaluation, call your insurance company, and let them know that you're going to a 4 on your evaluation. Well, we have found there's an average between a 20 to 30% savings on your homeowner's insurance also for fire protection. So again, another savings.
Let me mention something here. Pike County, the fiscal court running a shortfall on revenue of something over $3 million a year. How are they reacting to you taking away some of the county tax base?
Well, that's a good question because it's a misnomer. You don't stop paying county's taxes. It's just because you're still in the county school system, you're still in the county. The only difference is that we're now providing those services to you. So the only thing extra, so it's the same tax base. See, the savings becomes in your utilities. That's in our service area. It's not in the county service area, so they don't provide utilities anyway. It's within the city service area, so we do. So the utilities are up to us. You still pay the same county tax bill. It doesn't inflate, so there's no difference. So the only additional taxes that you pay is to the cities at 15 cents per hundred accessed. So for the $150 on a $100,000 piece of property, you're going to save yourself almost $560, and you're going to get all those other services. So the county does not, as a matter of fact, the county likes it because there's actually a savings to the county. Where the county benefits is that when the city annexes a territory, any county road now becomes a city road. So instead of the county having to spend their budget for the blacktop and the snow removal and all the things, now it's the city spending that money for the blacktop and the snow removal. So the county's not opposed to these areas. We work very well. Chick Johnson's a great friend and a great magistrate of the area up on Island Creek. We worked with Chick on the $5 million sewer line that went up in there. We worked with, we had to have an endorsement through the county to help us get the easements that were needed on the road there. Chick understood the need, and as I said, we've got a great relationship working with the county. So this is a benefit to those residents and to the county and as a whole, Homer, because what you're doing is you're providing a better quality of life for those folks in there, not just the savings. I've got a paper here that I'm trying to look for. This is a sheet that we done several years ago, and I updated at times, but when you come into the city, then you qualify for all the city benefits. So what we're basically saying to the area is, and one thing that I failed to mention also is when you come into the city, traditionally your property valuation also increases. And I'm not talking about the PBA's office. I'm not saying the PBA comes out and reassesses you. I'm just telling you that what happens is that because of the fire rating and all these other benefits, then what the realtors will tell you is that now your property valuation is a little bit higher because now you have city services, utilities, et cetera, et cetera.
Does this affect insurance?
The only thing it affects is your homeowners. As I said, the homeowners' fire insurance does lower, so it benefits the property owner. So you become, and now let's relate that to Marion's Branch, as you mentioned earlier. So now you've got a new development going on Marion's Branch. You don't want to be left behind. You want to become part of all these services that we're already going to be offering to those areas. So by being part of the city, then within the same region, then you don't have a deflation in your property evaluation. By being part of the city and being part of all the benefits, now as that development takes place, you've got those same services as your neighboring community does. You've got the utility savings. You've got the trash services. You've got, again, full police and fire protection. Our average response time, Homer, which is a big deal, into within our territory is only 4.5 minutes. So, why is that important? Well, if you're at home and your child falls and breaks their arm, or your wife or your husband has a heart attack, and you need to get to the hospital quick, having somebody there in 4.5 minutes is golden. Having your house catch fire and having a full-time department right down the road that can come and save your goods, and they may not be able to save the whole home, but a lot of times that they do. There's some damage, but the family photos, all the things that you would have missed in that 4.5 minutes, the fire department is able to react. And again, that's no discredit to a volunteer service. We have a lot of guys that serve in a volunteer capacity also, and they're all time. They're great departments out there. But having somebody on station when the phone rings, we have our own 911 system, so it directly goes into there, hits the fire department, and again, average response time for ambulance. We also have an EMT service, ambulance, fire, and police, 22 police officer, detective. All those services are available. So now having a police department patrolling your area, we offer services such as if you're going on vacation and you want your home checked by the police department, we put you on a list and they'll stop by, rattle your doors, leave you a note that we were there. Those are valuable services to people. So here's an opportunity for folks to take advantage of those services and save money.
I'm sure you've run these numbers up and compared them totally. We're talking with Donovan Blackburn, city manager of Pikeville. $150 based on the hypothetical that you used, a value of $100,000. That will buy you how much services in Pikeville?
That gives you the whole deal. You get as much as a person.
You have a figure you can apply to that?
Oh, I don't think there is a value, Homer. It's invaluable. And when I say invaluable, the first time that police officer that shows up at your house for 4 minutes and when you're being burglarized, how do you put a value on that? If you're laying there with a stroke or a heart attack, how do you put a value on that? Having things like snow removal and an animal control officer. We're talking about millions. Our annual budget's about $32 million this year. So everything that $32 million buys is what that homeowner is now able to be a partaker of. So it comes from police. We have street department, trash department, utility services, fire and ambulance. We have a state-of-the-art parks department. It's invaluable to what a resident in our city and what the quality of life issues, and that's what it all comes down to, is quality of life. And this is why the commission. I had a caller last week that called me. It's been a dear friend of mine for many years, and through that skepticism, the question was, what's in it for the city? And it's not about what's in it for the city; it's about what's in it for our community, and that's quality of life. The commission and the mayor simply wanted. They have a responsibility, Homer. When they go into an area or territory and they provide those utilities in an area, they want to make sure that it's as affordable as possible, and then all the other services that we already have available, that we pull those communities in, that we actually come in and service. So there's no hidden agenda. As I said, I can show you on numbers. To your point, it is costly. It's more costly to provide the services than it is for the tax base that we're actually taking in. We would take in far more revenue, in other words, by the out-of-city sewer rate and water rate than what we'll return back in property tax rate. These resources that we have, police department, fire department, we have a DARE program, we have a HIDA program with the police department. I could go on and on and on about all the services and the benefits that we have by being a city resident. And I was a county boy my whole life. I grew up a big part of my life on Greasy Creek. My family, in-laws live on Pompey. We have a great region. The county provides a lot of wonderful services, but by being consolidated, by being able to be within 15 square miles, we can reach out and touch more people with more services, and certainly offer a quality of life that I think everybody would be proud of. So, in my point of this is that this isn't a forced issue. The people have a voice. There's a process. We started this program by explaining that process. If people want to sign a petition, they're more than welcome to do so. But what we do want them to understand is that after the 23rd, it's an open commission meeting. They're welcome to attend, but that's not really when the process starts. The process, their voice is heard through the 60 days of whether they sign a petition or not. And the intent is to explain to the folks of that area that if you want to become part of our community, then we're more than welcome to have you here, and we want to show you what the values is.
You have the Marion branch thing going now. Let's tie that in as a cost and see how much it's going to cost to follow through on that, up to $25 million, I think you mentioned a couple of weeks ago. What would be the cost of the annexation to the city?
The annexation, there is no cost to the city other than the services that we start providing. Now, let me qualify: is that we've just spent $5.5 million, and that money is already spent, and that money was generated through various grants and bonds. So we worked with our legislators, Ray Jones and Leslie Combs and W. Keith. We went down and we got CDBG, Community Development Block Grants. We got ARC. There was a lot of different pots of money that came into this to generate that $5.5 million sewer project, which is a massive project. But that money it's already committed. The project's already going. But past that point, we already have an ambulance fleet. We already have a fire station there on the site. We already have our police officers. We don't have to provide any other services other than what it cost us to offer the trash service. But we're getting $10 per household. So if you take 400 households at $10, we have to pay a transfer fee. We have to pay the county because even though we pick the trash up, we still take it to the county in order to form that relationship or partnership. And the county generates dollars off of the city by us picking up that trash. So there is no really additional cost in infrastructure. It's more the cost then becomes as a part of our investment with our existing resources. We have to put a guy in a truck to plow what was county roads. Now they'll be city roads during this winter months. But that's just part of doing business.
In anticipation of the annexation going through.
Absolutely. It would. So it's more service based is where our additional costs will come here versus Marion's Branch is a different animal. We've got to go in and we've got to put blacktop in. Island Creek's already got blacktop. We've got to put utilities in. Island Creek already now has utilities. Marion's Branch, for example, the sewer line that went through Island Creek, the intent was to provide sewer to those customers. We brought it to the top of the hill at Marion's Branch, but at some point it's still going to have to be extended to whichever the area of the development is on Marion's Branch. So, in the $25 million investment that was announced, I think that could be lowered substantially by doing this in phases. And what the intent of Marion's Branch was, Homer, was to develop these in sections. So you take one section and the land cost that you sell from there, you take that and reinvest it in the next phase. So it's a phased project. I think that the sewer's already there. So out of that $20 million estimate, we've already tackled $5 million of it, utilizing Island Creek as part of it. So we're trying to spend our money wisely, trying to do the right thing to provide the services wisely, but we're trying to also benefit those that are in and around our community. Our population increase, as I told you a moment ago, we did not annex any territory with residents in it other than Lycans Creek. Our new census numbers was out, and we had a pretty substantial growth. The city of Pikeville was about 6,200. We're now almost at 8,000. So we want, by having those extra numbers as a part of our community, we're now able to go to Frankfort with a much larger voice. So it does all interrelate at some point to help our community continue.
There are some implications, though, in growing population determines the class of city.
Yes.
Class of city determines insurance rates and other things. Can you kind of fill us in on that?
What the difference in classifications, actually, the city of Pikeville was a class 3, and we just recently went back to a class 4, which is where we should have been to begin with. Our classification was changed in the 80s, quite honestly, just so that when the city took up the liquor sales, that they could sell liquor by the drink at that time. A class 4 city has the same benefits as a class city, but there's some additional value to being in a class 4. So this past session, we asked our legislators to consider us moving us back into a classification. From the standpoint of
population parameters, what determines?
I believe a class 4 is 7,999 to 14,999, I believe is. So
you're well within that range.
Yeah, we will. But here's another thing: is that the legislators next session, I happen to sit on the Kentucky League of Cities task force for city classifications. There will be a bill introduced next session addressing classifications across the state of Kentucky. We're one of the few states in the nation that still has a classification system that we have. So the legislator has asked the Kentucky League of Cities to look at that to determine if there's a way that we can change that to make it more real. So I think it really the classification issue is going to go out the window at some point. But under the classification system that we have now, pretty much every city in the state of Kentucky wants to be a class 4 because there's more benefits in a class 4 than there is anywhere else. Not really benefits to homeowners as much as it is a voice in D.C., a voice in Frankfurt, and then a lot of less regulatory constraints upon a city in order to grow.
All right, let's go back over Donovan Blackburn we're talking to, back over some of the crucial dates for public comment, for participation, for decision making. What are they?
Well, again, the first reading of the intent ordinance, and it is an intent, it's already been done. The second reading, which is when the 60-day clock will start, and that's an important reading, is the 23rd of this month, which is a week from this coming Monday, again, May 23rd. That's when the second intent ordinance will be read. Now, again, that isn't again, people are more than welcome to come to show up for the commission meetings. If they have additional questions, they're more than welcome to call my office, and I'll try to explain them as best I can. But what that meeting is for is just to read the intent ordinance. People, we don't want them showing up under the misconception that when they read that ordinance, hey, we're already annexed. That's not the case. The case for comment is during that 60-day period, and the comment process is sign a petition if you want it to go to the ballot. If you don't sign the petition, then again, 50%, if 50% or greater doesn't sign, then the city, after the 60-day time elapses, would be able to annex that territory. However, the city commission wanted to set the record straight in hopes that this community wants to become part of our community as well, so that we can provide all those services that are greatly needed. So again, May 23rd, Monday, is the second reading. A 60-day clock will start, and then after that 60-day clock is over, then we will determine after that, because once the 60 days is over, there's by law, we can no longer accept a petition after that 60 days. So after that 60-day clock starts, we will determine after the 60 days when the actual first reading of the intent or the actual annexation is, if the community doesn't meet the 50% threshold.
If it goes to the ballot, when would that election be?
Under Kentucky law, it is the general election in November.
November.
Yep. And basically, there'll be if it makes it to the election, it'll say basically, are you in favor of being annexed into the city of Pikeville, something like that. And then it takes, actually, during the election process, it takes 55% of the voters to defeat the annexation. So if it does make it to a ballot, then you would have to have 55% of the voting population that's within the area of annexation. And that's another confusing point, Homer.
We may have to cover that in another program.
Well, a lot of folks say, well, I have property there, but I don't live there. If it makes it to the ballot, can I vote? And the answer is no. You have to actually live within the territory. You have to be a registered voter to be able to vote. You can live outside the area and still sign a petition as a property owner, but if it makes it to the election, then only the registered voters within the territory being annexed would be able to vote.
If any of this information is vague to you folks or convoluted, they can call your office, right?
Well, please, and one very important thing I forgot to mention is that I've had a lot of calls saying, well, I live on Island Creek, am I in or am I not part of the annexation? The left fork of Island Creek is not a part of the annexation, for example. The right fork of Island Creek is. If you log on to the city's website at www.cityofpikeville.com and look in the center of the page, there is an annexation map that if the residents there click on that and pull up the map, then they can see the map that will have the shaded areas of the territory that's being annexed, so that will determine whether or not they're within the boundaries. Because some people may get this letter that I talked about that was being mailed out today and may not be in annexed territory. The first line on the letter says this may or may not it's kind of hard to say you're in, you're out, so we just had the post office deliver to do a mass delivery within the territory. So we may hit some people that's not in the territory. We may hit some people that is in the territory that didn't get a letter. So we wanted to get the word out through radio. Channel 99, Pike TV is also going to be airing this broadcast, and obviously your stations are airing it a couple of times. So the more we can communicate these issues out there, the more questions that they prompt. Like you say, if folks have a question that I didn't answer today, then
and for those that don't have internet connection, a phone number
606-437-5100 will bring you to City Hall. The city clerk actually has a copy of the map there at the city clerk's office. So Christy Billiter, you can contact her if you want to come in and actually look at the actual map. So you can do it either way, or you can dial the same number and ask to be transferred to my office, and I will try my best to answer any question that
I'm
you have.
sure you can. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Well,
looks like it's going to be an interesting summer.
It's starting up that way, Homer.
Yeah.
We've got a lot going on, and certainly You've been there almost every step with us. We certainly
Well,
appreciate your support and all that you do.
I'm getting an
for us.
education on it, believe me.
Well, you've done very well. You've done
Thank
very
you.
well.
We've been talking with Donovan Blackburn, City Manager of the City of Pikeville. Donovan, always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, it's my pleasure too, Homer. Thanks again for having me up and for all that you do for our great community.
Absolutely. Thank you.